Okay, so I have ADHD. I've still figured out how to be more focused, disciplined, productive, and just been able to get more things done than the average person my age. Now, I'm not saying this to sound cool or to boast. I'm saying this because a lot of us feel like it's impossible to focus. We can never really get anything done and we give up. And I felt this way. So even if you feel like you're at a disadvantage right now or, there's something holding you back, it's not really true, and this will work for you as well because I was at a pretty bad disadvantage. So let's get started because I'm going to teach you how to be addicted to working hard today. Okay, so most people only work hard when they feel like it, which means they work hard very rarely and they probably really never work hard. And if we can be able to want to work hard more often and also be able to work hard even when we don't feel like that, if we can combine those two, then it's the ultimate combo for getting a bunch of stuff done while enjoying the process. Okay, so the first thing we need to do to get like any sort of long-term progress and to stick to this is to kill our old identity, at least the negative side of it. So pretty much your identity controls the actions you repeatedly take and actions you constantly do and the things you actually think you're capable of. And I know it sounds a little confusing right now, but I'll explain this in a second. So really think about who you are. Like, what is your identity? Like, who are you as a person? Well, you're not your name. You're not really your body. So who are you? I like to think that your identity is created through all the experiences you've had through your whole life and all the actions you've taken as a person. And then also your beliefs that you currently have right now also contribute to your identity. So this could be beliefs about what you're capable of, beliefs about yourself, beliefs from childhood, pretty much any sort of beliefs that are in your head. And if you're starting self-improvement, you might be in sort of a bad spot or like sort of a more negative sort of spot, and you probably live like that for a while. So if for a big period of your life or maybe even your whole life, you've been told you're a loser, you've told yourself you're a loser, you've taken actions that have resulted you in feeling like a loser, you've done things you are not proud of at all. When you've constantly done those things, deep inside your head, you're going to identify with being a loser. You're going to think that is who you are. If you genuinely think you're just a lazy person who can never achieve your goals, why would you go out and try to not be lazy and achieve your goals? Because it feels like there's no point, because you're never going to change, and that's just who you are, and there's no point in trying to change because you won't change. So what we can do is we can just start basically starting to create a new identity for ourselves. So you can go extreme with this or you can go simple with this. What I recommend, at least for the bare minimum, is just to like sort of create an ideal version of yourself. Now this doesn't have to be like 7 feet tall, 300 pounds of muscle, $300 million. It could just be like where you want to be 6 months from now. Maybe it's you started a business, you're 10 pounds lighter and you eat a clean diet and you are nicer to people. You could just write down sort of the better version of yourself that you strive to be like. Now you could take inspiration from maybe people you look up to, like athletes, maybe your parents, maybe whoever it is. Take inspiration from them and figure out how you can implement certain characteristics and take out other characteristics. So I would just recommend right now you just get a journal out, right? And write like a page or two about like characteristics you want to have more of and sort of like the 2.0 version of yourself that you want to be like. And then what you also want to do is make a list called a do not do list. So on this list, you're going to write down all the sort of characteristics you have right now, all the beliefs you have right now, all the limiting beliefs you have right now, all the things you were told. And then you're just going to write a list of those characteristics, beliefs, and that kind of stuff that won't help contribute for you to getting to that 2.0 version of yourself spot. What I recommend is you also just do small things throughout the day that will help pretty much solidify your sort of new identity. So right now, just sort of think you're already at that point and start doing things that will solidify that belief. So maybe if you want to be a more hardworking person, like this video, or a more disciplined person, do small things that will help solidify that belief. Maybe instead of scrolling on your phone this morning, you don't do that and you say like, no, I'm a hardworking person. Instead, I'm going to just crank out some push-ups, get in the sun, and I don't know, maybe write half a page of a journal. Just do small things like that throughout the day to help solidify your sort of new identity. So you're basically just gaslighting yourself into success, but it worked for me. Okay, so this next tip is to help you actually really want to work hard. So the first thing is you need a reason why. Why do you want to work hard? What are you working hard towards? Most of us don't really have a reason. Just watch some YouTube video like this that tells us to work hard, to be disciplined, but we don't have any sort of reason to do so. So you need a strong reason why. Is it maybe because you want to help your family out and help them financially? Is it because you want to make your family proud? Maybe you want to make your younger self proud because you feel like you wasted a lot of time in your youth. Maybe, I don't know what it is, but you need a strong reason why that'll actually drive you to go wake up every single morning to work hard. Because when you don't have that, there's really no point in working hard. When you have literally no reason why to work hard, why are you working hard anyways? So you need a strong reason why that is sort of your North Star or something to drive you. Another tip I have for getting a strong reason why is to figure out the consequences that will happen if you don't put in the hard work. So chances are maybe you're trying to work hard on the wrong thing. Maybe you started drop shipping, but in reality, you don't give a fuck about drop shipping, or you don't give a fuck about your YouTube channel niche, or you don't give a fuck about like whatever you're doing right now, but you're just trying to work hard on it anyways. Thing is, if you really don't give a fuck about it, then there's no point in really doing it unless if you have to. So if you want to actually work hard on something and get something big done, it needs to be something you truly care about. So if you have a strong reason why and also a strong purpose, this will help a lot. Also, one tip, working off of fear can also be a good thing sometimes too. So I dropped out of college and I realized that I need to get something done with in my life, right? I need to be doing something, because if I'm not doing college and I'm not working towards anything, then I'm just a loser. So that kind of put a fear in my brain that I didn't want to be a loser. So I worked really hard towards getting my wildland firefighter certifications and growing my YouTube channel and business. And I managed to do all of those pretty well. Okay, so the next thing is a dopamine detox. So this isn't going to be one of those absolute fucking bullshit 24-hour reset your brain things. Those don't work. Those are trash. Let's do this instead. So first of all, why does it feel so hard just to sit down and work for 1 to 2 hours? It's like, it's such a simple task, but there's all these things going in your head and it's extremely difficult, right? When you constantly do these seemingly insignificant things like playing a bunch of video games, going on TikTok, watching a bunch of YouTube shorts, watching a bunch of porn, vaping a lot, pretty much like anything in sort of that realm, you're basically training your brain to not be able to be focused. Pretty much a lot of these instant gratification activities that you're probably doing right now give you a huge amount of their reward chemical, which is dopamine. And dopamine makes you motivated to basically continue doing a certain action time and time again. So now your brain has two things to choose from. So the first one is you get a ton of dopamine, you feel great, and you put no work into this thing at all. It's super easy to do, and you can just keep pumping dopamine through your brain. The next thing is you get some dopamine, you get a pretty good amount, but it's pretty difficult and it's not as fun and as easy. Which one is sort of the monkey brain gonna choose? Probably not the harder option. Your brain's always gonna wanna do the easiest thing, so it's gonna constantly do the easier option that you have. You're basically constantly rewarding yourself for doing things that are super easy, that don't really benefit your life whatsoever, but they give you a bunch of that reward chemical, right? So now it feels like there's no point in doing something difficult because you can get that same feeling from doing something easy. And when you constantly indulge in instant gratification, like all those activities I listed earlier, now it's going to be a lot harder to enjoy things like working hard towards something, like going to the gym, like working on a business, like studying, stuff like that. It's going to be almost impossible to even find any sort of like enjoyment in those things, because now the threshold to enjoy things is much higher, because now your brain has a much higher standard, which is the highly stimulating, easy things. But if we take out a lot of those habits out of our life, then really the only way for our brain to get that feeling of motivation and reward is to actually do more difficult things. People absolutely hate being bored. And when you quit your bad habits, when you get off Instagram, when you get off, eating a bunch of junk food, when you get off all of that stuff, you're going to realize how much time you have and how bored you are. And people hate being bored, so pretty much will do anything but be bored. And a lot of times this will result to working towards something. When you stop them as much as you can, now you're going to actually be able to focus. Your brain's not going to be getting bored super easily. You're not going to be jumping from thought to thought like, oh, I need this hit of dopamine, I need this hit of dopamine. No, you're going to be able to just focus on one thing at a time, which is really what you need to get things done. Well, I like to use a method called progressive deload. So pretty much it's like progressive overload in the gym, right? Once you reach a certain level, you level up to adding more weight or making the exercise harder. And this is pretty much the same thing when it comes to quitting bad habits, but the opposite. So here's an example. So let's say you're addicted to video games. So for week 1, you're only gonna play 4 hours of video games each day for 7 days. And if you can manage to do that, then for the next week, you're gonna only do 3 hours a day. And if you can do that for that week, then you're gonna go to 2, then you're going to go to 1, and then you're going to try to only do 1 hour a day for like 5 days of the week, right? So you're pretty much just leveling up, and every time you reach that level, you make it a little bit more difficult. Okay, so now I'm actually going to teach you how to work hard. Okay, so this concept is called essentialism, and it's basically the idea of less being more. So think about it. Almost everybody is doing the same thing. We're all trying to add more things into our life. We think, okay, if I go to the gym, start this business, start a second business, go to school, and then start a side hustle on the YouTube channel, I'm going to be super successful. And you try to focus on all these different things at once, and you never really make any significant progress. And if you do, it's very little in each of these areas. And you're basically spreading your focus too far and thin. What you want to do is you want to find literally one thing you go all in on, because when you do that, that's when you'll actually see progress. When you try to do a bunch of different things at once, it's going to be super hectic in your brain. Your focus is going to be split in a bunch of different directions, and you're just going to make less progress. Okay, so I just made this little diagram to basically show you how essentialism works, right? So pretty much the whole thing about essentialism is improvement from subtraction. So I made these two diagrams. So this is the average brain. So as you can see, these black lines represent like your focus and the amount of progress you can make in each area. And each of these have 100 brain points or brain power or focus, right? So this is the average person. They try to do a bunch of different things at once. They try to improve on a bunch of different things at once and work on a bunch of different things. And from this, their focus gets split up way too far and few between. So you can see that their progress doesn't go that far at all in each one of these things. And also, when you're trying to focus on a bunch of different things at once, your brain is going to be very confused, and there's just going to be way too many things to focus on. But when you go all in on one thing, that's when you make the real progress and go far, because you're pretty much just channeling all of your focus into one single thing. So it's very important that you figure out one thing you need to focus on. The truth is, you can't really get good at a bunch of different things at once. So figure out what's the most important thing for you to work hard on. Is it your studies? Is it to start a business? Is it to start a YouTube channel? Is it to get in really good shape? Is it to be really good at fighting? What is it? You need to choose that one thing that you go all in on, and that one thing you put all of your mental bandwidth into and all of your mental strength into. Because most of us do this, and we basically split all of our focus into small amounts and never make any significant progress. And we can practice essentialism in the macro and the micro. So this basically means we can use it in big areas in our life, in general areas in our life, and in super specific things. So the macro idea would be like just our regular life, right? So think about like all the different things you're trying to do. Are you trying to get jacked? Are you trying to get better at talking to girls? Are you trying to get better at school? Are you trying to start 3 businesses at a time? Are you trying to get better at video games? There's all these things you're trying to focus on. So in the macro would be like, okay, I'm just gonna find 1 or maybe 2 things to focus on in my life. And then the micro would be like, let's say you're trying to grow a YouTube channel, right? There's so many tasks you do when it comes to growing a YouTube channel, but really only a few are the most important. And those few are scripting videos and recording videos and editing videos. That's really the most important ones that will give you the majority of results when it comes to your YouTube channel. And that would be an example of the micro. So right now, think about the thing you want to focus on. Just think of it right now, right? And there's going to be a bunch of different tasks you do that are seemingly important, but they really don't give you that much results. So think of those few tasks that give you the majority of the results, because almost everything you try to get better at, there's going to be only a few tasks that give you the most results, and then a bunch of other tasks that don't give you that much result. So essentialism is pretty much just choosing one thing to focus on and then choosing the most important tasks within that thing you want to focus on that'll give you the most results, and taking out the less significant tasks and not focusing on them. Now, think about what are the less important tasks that often distract you from the essential tasks. So this could be like seemingly productive things that still distract you from the most important thing. So this could be like, if I'm a YouTuber, my main thing is scripting and recording videos. Now, if I spend a lot of time focusing on making the banner pretty and like replying to comments, sure, that's still productive, but doing that like an hour a day is gonna basically reduce a lot of the progress that I can make on the most important things. What I also recommend is you write down the less important tasks that also distract you from doing the most important tasks. Right, so most of us can't actually work hard. We have way too many things called micro distractions, which really just derive us from the main path when we're focusing, which is the essential tasks, right? So these are called micro distractions. So what are some micro distractions? Well, let's say I'm recording a YouTube video. Some of the biggest micro distractions would maybe be a notification, an email, maybe me to go get some food. Maybe it'd be like someone walking in my room and interrupting me. Maybe it would be some like loud noise outside or something. Maybe it would just be me opening my phone. While watching this video right now, what have you been micro distracted with? Have you been scrolling on the sidebar on the YouTube? Have you been checking notifications? Have you been listening to this while maybe doing something else? Have you been scrolling in the comments? I don't really get much comments, but you know what I mean. You've probably been micro distracted during this video, and you realize you're micro distracted all the time, especially when you're working on something important. All right, so the first most helpful thing that I've done is cut out all my phone notifications. It's very important you turn off your notifications because notifications are literally meant to interrupt you to go do something different. And that's the worst thing possible when you're trying to stay focused and work. So pretty much just turn off all of your phone notifications. So once again, figure out what your micro distractions are. When you try to focus on school, when you try to, focus on a business or whatever you're trying to focus on, what are the things that usually distract you? So when you figure out what your most essential or important task is, now we're gonna do something called eating the frog. So it's basically just putting the most difficult or most mentally strenuating work task at the beginning of the day. So why do we do this? Well, first of all, it helps you actually get it done. Think if you had to eat a frog, right? Would you rather eat a nasty, slimy frog first and then eat a nice, awesome dinner? Or would you rather eat the nice dinner and then eat a slimy, nasty frog after dinner? You'd probably want to eat the frog first and then have something that is better afterwards. And this is kind of what it's like with your deep work habits. When you put it off for the end of the day, you're going to be constantly thinking about it the whole day, and it's going to feel kind of scary. And when it's the end of the day, now you're probably not going to do it because you're tired and it's the end of the day. All right, so when you're first starting out with actually doing deep work, you're going to have a lot of brain fog. So I'm going to teach you how to fight through that brain fog to get to a point where your brain is a little bit more clear. Because when you're first starting out, it's going to seem like almost impossible to fight through the brain fog, but hopefully this analogy that I'm going to give you will help you understand it more. So your starting point is at a house. Just imagine a house right here. And then you basically need to get to the flag. The flag is like the end of the 2 hours of deep work. Now in between the house and the flag, there's a bunch of branches, trees, snow, and just like nature and stuff that gets in the way of you actually like having a clear path. Think of all that stuff in the way as your brain fog. Now, the first time you walk through it, it's going to take a long time to get through all that sort of brain fog or all those obstacles, but you'll eventually get to the end point. And it won't feel very productive, it'll feel kind of shitty, but the second time you do it, the trail will be cleared up a little bit more, right? And then the third time you do it, the trail will be cleared up a little bit more. And each time you do this, you'll get through the so-called brain fog faster every time. So pretty much the first time you sit down and do deep work, you're probably gonna have a lot of brain fog. Your brain is probably gonna just go to retard mode and act stupid, but every time you just sit down and do this again and again, it's gonna get a little bit easier each time and the brain fog will go away quicker. So you gotta just trust yourself and trust me. Like the first time it's gonna kind of suck when you sit down and do deep work, but every time you sit down and do it again, it'll get easier. When you're starting to do deep work, you're probably gonna get a bunch of random thoughts every 15 seconds or so. I know it sounds like a lot, but you'll see. So how do we get rid of this? Because it can get very annoying. You're gonna get thoughts on quitting your deep work. You're gonna get thoughts that are gonna tell you to do something else. You're gonna get thoughts about some random thing that happened a couple years ago. So what I recommend is what you gotta do is you gotta basically meditate back onto the task. So you don't wanna let yourself get caught up in these thoughts. So you need to acknowledge those thoughts that are coming into your brain and then just realign back onto the main thing, which is the task you're focusing on. So you need to practice this. It'll be hard to do it at first because you'll probably get caught away in your thoughts, but you need to practice at catching these thoughts coming in and just realigning back to the moment and not getting distracted. So make sure you follow all the steps in this video, because if you do, you'll be able to work like an absolute boss. And I think you will, because you do have a top 1% attention span. So for that, I'm gonna give you a free guide, link is in the description, and it's just gonna be like pretty much everything summed up from this video and pretty much like all the actionable steps. That's it. See you in the next one. Bye.